Okay, now we're going to get into the last of the subsistence strategies, or ways in which societies in the world make a living. This is Gen Talk, Making a Living, Subsistence Strategies, Part 6, Post-Industrialization. So with post-industrialization, things have changed a bit, though have been very much shaped by agrarian life and industrial lifestyle. The ways in which people make a living in post-industrial societies, or the most modern societies, are characterized by a shift from producing goods to a reliance on services and knowledge. Production of goods are outsourced to lower income nations, and food production is processed by machines in addition to advanced farming. Some services and skills are valued more highly than others, and wages are paid based on their value, or really scarcity, in a society. They're based on services and they're based on knowledge, mostly in high income nations like the United States, most of Western Europe, Japan, and Canada, for example. Society in post industrialized eras becomes more complex. Higher education becomes a must for most. In terms of population sizes, post-industrialized societies can support millions of people, even billions of people. The life chances or access to resources in post-industrialized societies really are characterized by those who own and manage the means of production, like we saw in industrialized societies, and they have greater access to resources, and so do their families and their communities. Also, those with valued, specialized knowledge and skills have greater access to resources. So that's just a fancy way of saying the more educated you are, the more likely you're going to have access to the things that you need and the things that you want. There is significant inequality among the societies. This simply continues to exist. We saw the start of this development in agrarian societies, in feudalist societies where it was really controlled by a few. Industrialized societies, the stratification grew and inequality actually expanded more, but started to shift in terms of the notion that people should be able to move up or down in their classes. And now with post-industrialized societies, the idea again is that people should be able to move up and down in their classes. And what we're really seeing is a global inequality, where some countries, generally everyone lives at a higher level, and other countries somewhere in the middle, and others barely making ends meet. In terms of tools and technology, things are automated and smart technologies emerge to do work for humans. Information technology develops and becomes a key part of daily work and home life, and we're all living that right now. Advanced communications expand globalization. And globalization really refers to the interconnectedness of global economies and the ways in which we do things from a day-to-day life. For example, the technology you're using today to watch this video and to engage in the class, some of the pieces that you're using, the hardware, were developed in the United States, maybe built in places like Mexico or Brazil or China, and the technologies could have been patented in South Korea, the United States, Canada, Japan, or China. And the ways in which the wavelengths pass from internet connection and satellite to another pass throughout the globe, and also even through satellites in outer space. So we're really expanding the ways in which we do things beyond our small community or our nation state, like we saw with agrarian societies, and even with industrial societies where things stayed within the nation state and neighboring. Now with post-industrial, the sky really is the limit. In terms of division of labor, men and women work to earn an income. Both do in post-industrial societies. Most work is knowledge or information and service oriented. So we've moved away from the need for strength and the need for skills regarding hunting or using challenging or heavy tools. And so that's created an opportunity for men and women to use brain power and therefore have equal ability to do different kinds of work. We also have flexible work settings that are emerging through globalization, which expands, and information and services can be provided throughout the globe. So now anyone can do most high-paying or living wage-paying jobs, male or female. Inequality among social classes continues globally as inequality among the sexes in high-income nations is lessening. And as we mentioned in the previous Gen Talk, we're seeing that wage gap between men and women grow closer. It still exists, and it also exists between the races within the United States and throughout the globe, but we're starting to see that narrow as more and more people engage in education and therefore have those higher level skills that allow them to impart their knowledge and engage in services more equally, at least with the potential to have those opportunities more equally as long as they're given that opportunity. In terms of quality of life and the concept of surplus or wealth or capital, an excess of goods and services is produced and at a relatively affordable rate, allowing most people to own goods. Look around you in the room or the space where you're watching this. You probably have many, many more things than our hunting and gathering, horticultural, pastoral, even agrarian and industrial counterparts once had in terms of goods and services available to you. People seek to own technology, to access transportation, to own transportation, our own cars, multiple cars, motorcycles, bicycles, scooters, larger homes, recreation items, including second homes, boats, jet skis, you name it, etc. So we seek to own and have more things like that to make life more comfortable and actually more fun and enjoyable. In terms of territories and land, ownership of land remains as it was with industrialization. The ownership of ideas and intellectual property, though, has emerged in a post-industrial society. So prior to post-industrialization, you couldn't really own an idea, but this notion of copywriting and intellectual property is a real significant concept in post-industrial societies, and there are whole industries built around this notion of intellectual property and having the ability to own even your own image. Bureaucracies emerge even in more complex ways to manage, protect, and defend knowledge and information. Cash remains the primary commodity exchange to purchase goods and services, but we've seen with post-industrialization, you no longer needed something physical to exchange like a coin or a bill, but you could use things that would transmit like credit cards, and now the concept of Bitcoin. In terms of relationships or interpersonal relationships and social lives, the division of labor really blurs across the sexes now. Social classes continue to exist and are correlated with levels of education, but men and women are generally perceived to be able to do most of the same types of jobs, and more every day are perceived to be able to go into jobs that once were no longer expected of them. It is not uncommon to see men working as nurses, as teachers, even in preschool and elementary school. It is no longer uncommon to see women working as architects or engineers, and the list goes on. A desire to consume and possess resources beyond our needs has become the norm in post-industrial societies. People also place a significant importance on recreation and leisure, and we consume goods and services that promote this improved quality of life endeavor. Post-industrialized societies are characterized by the masses valuing fun, leisure, and leisure activities, whereas among agrarians, only the noble could really imagine to look forward to and benefit from what is considered fun or leisure. And today, everyone thinks that that should be something we all should have access to. That's really a hallmark of post-industrial societies. And of course, your life chances that you're born with have an impact on the likelihood that you'll be able to achieve that. Again, we still believe in that so-called notion of the American dream, where there's social mobility and we can work our way up through education in particular. But the goal is not only to earn a good living so that you can pay for your needs and have a little bit more, but to also engage in things that we enjoy in leisure activities. Globalization creates conflict and inequality across the globe. So when we saw more conflict within societies and similar societies, with post-industrialization, we see greater levels of inequality outside of our own societies and across the globe. And we're certainly seeing more of that today as you look at low income, middle income, and high income societies and the conflicts that emerge between those as they sort of jockey for which step and place they're in that global hierarchy within our world. Post-industrialists, industrial and agrarian societies, and some that are still more hunting and gathering and pastoral.